Who all signed up?
So, I'll get my. Closed. Junkie.
Oh, science.
Right. Right here. We had 7 invitations,
Registrations.
registrations, yes.
Yeah, how many are on? None.
None,
Does that count
none.
you
That's
down?
why I'm,
Hey, this will be,
Five
this will be
dead.
an easy and short class.
I'm going to log out because I'm gonna leave the meeting here and
See Barrett. Barrett.
You all right?
Okay.
Sure.
Can you hear us?
She is
Sam?
really excited to be here.
Can you hear us?
You can just do a thumbs up or there, Sam can hear us.
Sam can
Good.
hear us, okay.
Here
All
we go.
right, I just want to make sure.
I didn't think you guys were in the office. I thought it was a Zoom only event. I'm kind of bummed out. I would have went to the office.
Yeah, it's either or. Yeah, either or.
Hello, Lisa, thank you.
Hi,
for
Lisa.
joining. Baron.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Baron. What's up, Sam?
There's
Hello.
Nicola. We're on Hawaii time. Hi, Baron.
Hey, Baron.
Hi.
All right, the biggest thing is, Sam, can you see this? If I stand at, I'm kind of, if I stand here, Sam, you can see me working on this flip chart?
No, your screen just goes Dan Palomino with your picture. That's it.
Yeah, you gotta put my camera.
We gotta start video. There you go.
Just click the Zoom thing here. Well, yeah. No. What happened, everybody? Or you're sharing a screen. Hit stop share. There you go. Okay,
There's Sam.
good. Okay, so you guys can see this. Okay.
I can see in the upper.
Yeah, all right.
Right corner.
Okay, let's go. Everybody, welcome, and hope your day is going well. Some of you have gone through this exercise with me before when we did this back in, I want to say April, or when we were first getting going with the office. And so I trust that you've got the sheets that I sent out. In addition, there was some information that you were going to need to know about your business. For instance, what your average price point was, what your average commission was, how many deals you did in 2019, how many deals you did in 2020. Typically, we would only look at the past year, but since 2020 was such an off year for so many people, I had you pull some statistics from 2019 as well. Now, I'm going to do a fictitious business plan to show you how this works. And you are going to just get the principles of how to do it, and then eventually redo it again and plug in your own numbers, okay? If at any point you need to stop me, just let me know, okay? All right, so we're gonna start with this page. It says My Annual Action Plan on the top, My Annual Action Plan. That's the first page we're gonna start off. And it says My Annual Economic Model. It'll say net income, cost of sales, operating expenses, and gross commission income, okay? Chris is gonna work the calculator for me today. And we're gonna start with, we're gonna kind of start out of order. We're gonna talk about what our gross commission is, and then we're gonna work backwards, okay? And so if you had a gross commission of about $500,000, you're gonna make about 200 and change. And I don't know if that's realistic for this island or not. I suspect it is, that you could make $200,000 here on $500,000 worth of gross income. So we're gonna use those numbers. So at the top where it says gross commission income, please write in 500,000. Okay. Now, where it says operating expense, 29.2. Operating expenses, the category is what you spent on signs, what you spent on brochures, how much you paid for pay-per-click, any other advertising or marketing that you've done. All of your expenses in order to do business. So Chris, 500,000 times 29.2%.
$146,000.
It's how much?
$146,000.
146,000. Okay. Now, the next category you're wondering is, what is cost of sale? Primarily, cost of sale is what your splits are to the brokerage firm, and if you're doing a team, what your splits are with team members. So if you're on a team and you're on a 50-50 split with your rainmaker, then that's part of your cost of sales. Now, it says that cost of sales here are 29.2. That is really set for a team. And you're going to say, well, I'm not a team, I'm an individual agent. And so I might not have a cost of sales that are that high. I might not have a 30% cost of sales because I'm not splitting my commissions with a lot of people. But some of your deals may be referrals where you had to pay a 30% referral fee. Some of your deals may be where you had to pay a 25% referral fee, and then your splits with the firm. So does everyone understand what goes in the cost of sales? It's really splits with the firm and splits with other team members, including referrals that you have to pay out. Now, you're going to have to figure out what percentage you're going to use for your business there. My sense is if you're a single agent, that your cost of sales is probably around 17 to 21%. If you're a team, your cost of sales is probably going to be like 30%. For the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to stick with the 30%, okay? Just so we shoot high. So again, we're going to take another $146,000 as cost of sales. Cost of sales. This is expenses. And that's going to give us our net income. So Chris, what is 146 times 2?
292.
292?
292,000.
Let's subtract that from 500,000.
208.
Okay, so I was pretty close. I said that 500,000 in gross commission income will get you to 208. And that includes you guys paying taxes, okay? So I'm saying all in, like every expense that you could potentially think of in your business, at the end of the year, you walk away with 208,000, okay? Everybody with me? Anybody lose me on any of that? Okay? Now, here's where you're going to need to know some information about your business. Look at how the arrows split off into a seller column and a buyer column. I used to track my business very closely. On the 120 deals we did every year, I was a 60-40 split. I was 60% listings, 40% buyers, okay? For this exercise, I'm going to just call it a 50-50 split, and we'll make it easy, okay? So if you look at the top, it says gross revenue from sellers and gross revenue from buyers. I don't want you to use the 50-50 unless it's really true for your business. When you go back and you look at 2019 and you look at 2020, I want you to do the true percentage of how many buyers and sellers you had. If you were seller heavy to the tune of 75%, then 75% of your income's coming from sellers. If you were, low on buyers, you didn't do a lot of buyers, and 25%, I want you to use that. So if you take $500,000 in gross commission income and you split it to the sellers and the buyers, that means 250,000 is coming from listings and 250,000 is coming from buyers. Okay, sorry, this is 0. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now the next line is assuming what your commission rate is. And so the way you figure this out is go through all of your sellers and figure out all of your seller deals and what your average commission rate is. We know that you took some sellers at 2%. We know you took some at 2.5. We know you took some at 3. What was the average for all of your seller deals the last 2 years? Again, for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to go with 3%. Okay. So what the sheet says there is it says take 250,000 and divide it by 3%, Chris. What do you get for seller sold volume? Okay. 50,000 divided by 3. So we have 8,333,000.
I didn't think that could be right.
333. Okay, so basically what that tells us is on the sell side, we've got to do 8 million in volume. Now we're going to get granular on this. Take the 8 million in volume and divide it by the average sales price. So again, go through all of your 2019 production, go through your 2020 production, and figure out what the average sale price was of all the deals you did. You did some condos at 250. You did some nice houses at 1.5. What did that all average out to be? If we just use Kona as an example, and for this exercise, we know that the average price point here is about 750. Okay, so now we're going to take 8,333,000 and we're going to divide it by an average sale price of 750,000. Okay, so it says, let's see, 750. Calculator says that that is going to be 11.11 deals. Why don't we just round it up to 12? Okay, so that says that we got to do 12 sellers. Okay, sold. That's 12 sellers sold. Now remember, what we go to next is we don't sell every listing we take. And so the 65% conversion rate, you'll have to decide whether or not that is a good number for you. And you can do that very easily by saying, okay, in 2019, I took 20 listings and I sold 15. We'll do the math. Now you know what your conversion rate is. This is just a general guideline from Millionaire Real Estate Agent that you're going to sell about 65% of your listings. So now if we take 11 or 12 deals and we divide it by 12 deals and we divide it by 65%, that means we have to go get 18 listings. Okay, these are 12 sold. Okay, now, again, every listing appointment you go on, you don't necessarily get everyone you go on. And so now you have to take the 18 number of listings taken, and you've got to divide that by 80%. Okay, 18 divided by 80%. 22.5, we'll call it 23. Listing appointments. Okay, so follow me now. You got to go on 23 listing appointments in order to get 18 listings, in order to sell 12. Okay, now if you've got to go on 23 listing appointments in a calendar year, so let's take the bottom where it says divide by 10. Divide by 10.
Nice, take 2 months off.
Okay, so we have to go on 2 listing appointments per month. 2 listing appointments per month. Okay? Now, if I take that and I divide it by 4, I got to go on a half of a listing appointment a week. Okay. Here's the cool thing that I love about this exercise. If I said to you just flat off the street, hey, Billy, you got to do 9 million in listings. And you kind of think, oof, like, all right, like, what does that look like? Like 9 million in listings. Or I said, listen, you can make $250,000 in gross commission income on listings if you go on 2 listing appointments a month. Can you do that? That sounds a lot better, right? We only have to go on 2 listing appointments per month at an average price of $750,000 in order to generate $250,000 in gross income on the sell side. Okay, those of you in Zoom, you good? Everybody's with me? Great. Okay. Now let's do the same exercise for the buy side. Okay. So now look at the buy side column. We'll use 3% again on the 250. 3%. And so we should come out with the same dollar volume, correct? 8,333,000. We're going to divide that by the average price, by the average sale price. If you want to do something different here, because again, you're going to know, let's not use 750 here and see what the numbers look like. Let's say that our average price point on our buyers was, what do you want to go, higher or lower? Higher than 750. So you want to say the average price point on the buyer was 910? All right, so let's go divided by 910. Okay, so let's do that. Um, 8,333 divided by 910,000 equals. So it looks like we've got to do, we'll call it 9 deals, 9 sold on the buy side, right? Of the 9 sold, we've got a conversion rate of 80%. So we've got to work with 11 buyers in order to get 9 buyers closed. And then at a conversion rate, again, we're not gonna get every buyer we meet, right? And so if we got to work with 11, what's the conversion rate? Divide that by 65%. That means we got to meet 17 buyers. Okay. Now, out of that, we got to divide by 10. That means we got to meet 1.7 buyers per month. Divide that by 4. 0.7 divided by 4. So we got, again, a half of a buyer a week. The thing that you notice on here is on the buy side at the higher price point, we only have to do 9 transactions and not 12. Okay. If the price point were lower, if we were heavy on buyer on the condo side and our price point was only $400,000 a year, you can bet that this is going to be a lot larger. This is going to be double. You're going to have to do 18 deals, and these numbers are going to be bigger. But remember, you're going to have to meet with 17 buyers in the calendar year in order to help 11. And out of the 11, you're going to close 9. And that's going to get you to the 250,000. Okay? So now what are we looking at? We're looking at a business plan that says we're going to do 21 units in 12 months for a gross commission income of $500,000, which will net me 208. Now, again, you're going to plug in all of your own numbers for your business plan. Question is, how do you forecast, or what's a realistic plan for what you can do in 2021? Here's what we always did with my coach. My coach said, Dan, fill out 3 of these. And I said, why? And he said, I want you to fill it out for what a low year or a bad year or a COVID year would look like. I want you to fill one out for what is a very realistic year. And then I want you to fill one out for a reach for the stars year. Like everything lined up, everything went well, and I hit a home run. And then you've got an idea of which one you're going to be at. You know what I mean? So you can kind of take a mix and match of the 3 and know where you're going to be at. Any questions on the first part of the business plan? Okay. Anyone on Zoom? Questions? Okay. Now, this is what I call the 1,000-foot view. This says, okay, I know I got to do 12 listings. I got to sell 12 listings, and I know I got to sell 12. I got to get 12 buyers closed, or 9 buyers closed and 12 listings closed. But it doesn't tell you how. Like, how are you going to do that? Right? This is just the macro level look. So now I want you to grab your paper that says 135. 135. Okay? So let's just read the columns. It says, number 1, the main business objective or goal for the year, the 3 strategies or sub-goals to achieve that, and then the 5 tactics for reaching each of the sub-goals. So what was our main goal? What did we want to do? We wanted to net 208. That was the goal. Okay? And the number 1 goal doesn't just have to be about the money. You could put some other things like, I would like to do 208 and have a life, right? I would like to do 208 and maintain my sanity. That could all be part of the big goal, all right? Now, if I go into the boxes and I say, okay, what are my 1, 2, and 3 strategies? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some ideas. And again, you're going to have to think about what works best for you. Like, what are the strategies that you're going to do to go get business? And I'm going to give you this simple story. Many of you know that I was in the health and fitness business for a fair amount of time. I wrote health and fitness books. I did health and fitness videos. And people would come to me and they'd say, for advice about getting in shape. And they'd say, Dan, I am ready to get in shape. And I'd say, well, that's great. What are we going to do? And they'd say, well, first thing Monday morning, I'm going to start running. And I'd say, well, that's great. Do you like running? And they'd say, no, I hate running. And I'd say, okay, but you're going to be a miserable failure at getting in shape. The bottom line is if you're doing a lead generation activity that you're not going to adhere to, if you're doing a weight loss activity like running that you hate, it's not going to work. So pick a activity that you know that you are absolutely going to do. Okay? I'll use myself as an example. I don't like social media. I'm not a social media guy. You don't really see me posting on social media. I don't enjoy it. It's painful for me to get on social media. All right. However, I'm a little weird in that I don't mind cold calling. Right? So I will pick up the phone and I will cold call all day long. Rejection doesn't bother me. I was my mother's third choice. Right? It's okay. I don't mind cold calling, but I don't like social media. So don't put me in a box and have me go do social media, right? Because it's not going to work. Scott Davidson, who's now running my team back in Colorado, if you ever meet Scott, he's got the boy next door face. He's just got this really genuine hometown, gee, I'd like to meet you type of face. And he says to me when he comes on board on the team, he says, hey, I'm going to do door knocking. And I said, do you like door knocking? And he said, yeah, I think I would really enjoy it. I said, well, by all means, I called him kid because he was so much younger than me. So by all means, kid, give it a shot. So he goes out his very first day to the subdivision called Trisana, and he starts knocking doors. And he calls me like an hour into it, and he says, hey, Dan, I got a couple of questions for you about this unit in Trisana. And I'm starting to answer the questions, but I'm curious. I'm like, well, why are you asking? He goes, well, I'm sitting in the living room with these people talking about selling their house. I said, didn't you just start door knocking? He goes, yeah, my third house, and they invited me in. And I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing, right? So long story short, the kid goes through the whole subdivision, or at least half of it that night, and he gets 3 deals out of it. 3 deals, right? And I sit there and I sit him down and I said, listen, whatever you do in this business going forward, don't do anything but door knocking, right? Don't cold call. Don't try to be a social media guru. Don't do anything but door knock, just door knock. And he's built an amazing business on that. If you were in Mega Camp and you watched the video from Nikki Klein in Boca Raton, Florida, you know that she built a huge business, just nothing more than a Facebook group. That's it. All she's got is a Facebook group in Boca Raton, Florida, and she does all of her business off of that. I only tell you all of this because we've got to come up with some strategies, right? And so I have an example of what Scott was doing in Colorado. And again, you're going to have to fill this out for what works for you. But one of his examples was he wanted to be better in internet lead generation, right? And so when I ask you, because the first thing that pops into your mind is, well, what does that mean? That one of his strategies is internet lead generation and being better at that. Well, remember, we're going to have 5 tactics that's going to define this in a second. I said to Scott, what is your other strategy? He says, I want to develop my farm. Everybody knows what that is, right? And remember, we're going to have strategies underneath that. Lastly, he says, I want to do a better job at working my database. Okay, so now here's his 3 strategies, everybody, to get to this. And then again, we got to indicate, well, what does that look like in order for him to win? Okay, so we'll start here under working his database. He wrote, reevaluate calling plan and implement new plan. In other words, he recognized that he probably wasn't touching his database over the phone nearly enough. Now, if for those of you who have taken Bold with us, and if you haven't taken Bold, I highly recommend that you do it, but they've given you a calling plan. It's called a quarterly calling plan, and they lay out chapter and verse how to get through your whole sphere. And they even give you the scripts of what you say as you get through your entire sphere. It's called a forward script, right? And so a forward script talks about each one of those: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? And that conversation probably is a good touch base for your calling plan. So his number one was that he had to do a better job at evaluating and coming up with a plan to call his sphere. Okay, that was his number one. Number two was, and I'm trying to read his writing, birthdays and anniversaries. He thought under working his database, he had to do a better job at birthdays and anniversaries. Now, the great thing is when Scott wrote this, we didn't have command, right? We didn't have a smart plan set up in command that automatically touched your sphere on their birthdays and their home anniversaries. I mean, we've come leaps and bounds. Now you just set this up, you set it and you forget it, okay? He said one of the things that he was working on was he was going to consider an item of value. What does he mean by that? That means that at least once a year, he wanted to mail something to his sphere that was an item of value. Now, if you're old like me, you know that we used to send calendars, right? Realtors have been sending calendars for years, and you can laugh, you can chuckle, but by gosh, these things still work, right? I had partnered up with a guy named Gary Larman when I started off my career. Gary was considerably older than me. Gary sent out calendars every year, and I rolled my eyes. I said, oh, Gary, you know, come on, get into the digital age. Nobody's mailing calendars. And he said, no, we're going to mail calendars. Well, one year I convinced him not to do it for us to save the money. You should have seen the number of phone calls we got from people who didn't get a calendar. All of his database. Hey, Gary, I didn't get a calendar this year. Hey, Gary, I didn't get a calendar this year. They flat out work, so don't discount it. But it doesn't have to be a calendar. It can be any item of value, okay? Okay, so one of his things were invite clients to client appreciation parties. We call them CAPs. On my team, we had 2 CAPs a year, 2 client appreciation parties a year. Now, again, this may not work here. It may not work in Hawaii. And you can have something else that you fill in here instead of a client appreciation party. But he thought in order to reach his database, he was going to invite them to an event, okay? Choose key sphere contacts to go to lunch with. Okay, so you heard me say that one of the ways that I got started in business when I didn't know anyone or didn't have any business is I implemented what they called the 52 lunch program. And the 52 lunch program said basically open up your phone and try to go to lunch with one person once a week for 52 weeks. That simple. Now, the first year I did this, I think I gained 10 pounds. So order the salad. But my point being is that you got to connect with people because you don't know what's going to come out of the conversation. Now, we all have a lot of clients that don't live here and live off island. That's okay. When they fly in, we can have lunch with them. If they live here, we can have lunch with them. It's not just clients, though, on the 52 lunch program. I say to people, do you have a dentist here? Take your dentist to lunch. Do you have a carpenter or a handyman that you work with? Take him to lunch. How about your title rep? How about your dry cleaner? How about your accountant? Everybody knows somebody who is doing a transaction in real estate at any given time, right? And so you gotta start the conversation, and they know what you do, right? And so you go to lunch, you have small talk. How's your family? How's my family? Do the forward conversation at lunch. And at some point in that conversation, it's going to turn to real estate. I'll give you a quick example. one of my buckets that I got a lot of deals out of in Colorado was my kids' sporting events, right? So Micah was at 2 baseball practices a week, plus another 2 games. Malia was at 2 softball practices and 2 softball games a week. I was just crisscrossing the town trying to get to practices and games. And every time I got there, who did I see? All the other parents. They were always there. And we'd always say, hey, Billy, how's it going? You know, he'd ask me how I'm going, how it's going. We'd chit chat a little bit, and almost inevitably, 99% of the time, somewhere in the conversation, Billy would say to me, so how's the market? And I would say, you know, the market's doing blah, blah, blah. And then I would stop myself on purpose in mid-sentence, and I wouldn't finish the sentence. And then I'd stop and I'd pause and I'd go, why do you ask? And then he'd say something like, well, we're thinking about downsizing. We're thinking about investing. We're thinking about upgrading, right? We're thinking about buying something for Tim because he's heading off to college in Boulder next year, right? There would always be a reason that they were asking how the market was. And when they ask you how the market is, that's your entry into asking the real tough question of why do you ask, right? And same thing when you're on the phone with a client and the conversation turns to real estate and they say, so tell me what the market's like, Chris, in Hawaii. And you start into the sentence, just cut yourself off halfway and go, why do you ask? Because they got a reason. And by doing the lunch program, you can figure that out. Now, under the column number 2, where it says develop my farm, guess what he said? I'm going to continue to door knock Trisana. Okay, that was one of his under the farm. He said he's going to follow up on the Knowles West and Sunridge contacts. So Knowles West and Sunset were 2 subdivisions that he knocked last year, and he hadn't followed up on it. He hadn't done a great job of staying present in the farm. Let me just say a word about farming. I live in Hualalai Vistas, subdivision, 45 homes. If I don't stay ever present in that subdivision, I'm going to lose my market share. And so that means that I need to be mailing to that. It's my own subdivision. I need to be door knocking that subdivision, and I need to be calling that subdivision. The biggest mistake that people make is they mail something to them in the mail. Market statistics, just listed, just sold. They mail something to them and they do nothing with it. And they just leave it, right? They don't follow it up with a phone call. They don't knock on a door. They don't do anything with it. Or they mail them one card and they never mail them anything again. Listen, if you're going to mail something to a farm, make sure that you are mailing at least 12, at least 1 a month. Figure out what the budget's going to be for you to mail at least 12 for it to be effective, okay? His number 3, choose and begin to look for a new farm to knock, okay? So his number 3 was new farm to knock. His number 4, circle prospect, okay, our listings. Okay, so what is circle prospect? Okay, we'll use me as another example. So you get a listing in Hualalai Vistas and it goes on the market. And the first thing you should do is call all the homes around it and just say, hey, I'm Chris Mackhold from Keller Williams. I don't know if you noticed, but I just put the house on the market just down the street from you. I'm just wondering if you know of anyone that would be interested in moving into the neighborhood. Maybe some of your friends or your colleagues have some, at one time said, if anything pops up in your neighborhood, let me know, right? And the person on the other end of the line most likely is going to say, no, I don't know of anybody, but thanks for calling me. Hey, one last question before you go. Do you know do you know anyone else in the subdivision that would be willing to sell? This seems like a pretty hot subdivision. Seems like there's a lot of interest. Just wanted to know if you're interested in selling. No, I'm not. How about any of your neighbors? Do you know any of your neighbors interested in selling? Nope, don't know any of them either. Okay, well, thank you very much. Now, that's going to be the majority of conversations, but there is going to be the one person that says, it's funny that you ask because my husband and I were just talking about selling. Chris and I have been going through this exercise in a variety of subdivisions, and he's getting through a bunch of these, and they're all saying the same thing, right? Which is, no, we're not interested in selling. But every once in a while, he hits one that says, we are interested in selling, and we've been talking about it, and we're probably going to do it in 3 months. And so what I'm having Chris do is take these people that say, I'm interested in selling, and I'm having him put them in as a contact in command. And I'm having him set a task inside of command. So command, when he logs in every morning into command, it immediately alerts them that this person needs to be called. So I said to him, here's what I've experienced. If somebody says to you, hey, we're going to sell in about 6 months, cut that in half. All right. That means they're really going to sell in about 3 months. Okay. And if they're really going to sell in about 3 months, you need to talk to them in about a month. You need to set that task to call them in 30 days because everybody's plans always end up getting accelerated, right? Whatever they tell you, say, oh, we're 6 months off. You can bet they're not 6 months off. All right. And then his last one on developing a farm was he was going to consider a mail out piece. All right. Okay. Now, what's his third strategy? Internet lead generation. He says his number one on that is increase follow-up time and frequency. So I'm going to put follow-up and frequency. What does he mean by that? We would get internet leads in. And listen, if you guys are in the internet lead business and you decide you want to buy some zip codes with Zillow, you want to be part of the Dave Ramsey network, whatever the case may be, you want to pay for internet lead generation. When that lead comes in, if you are not on that within the first minute, kiss it goodbye. You have very, very little hope of getting them on the line. And then the question was, well, I've been calling them, I've been texting them, I've been emailing them, they're not responding. How long do I do this? Answer, infinity. You email them, text them, and call them to infinity. Because you're only looking for 2 results. On an internet lead, you keep calling, you keep texting, there is no stop number, until they pick up the phone. You want them to pick up the phone or text you back, and you're only looking for 2 responses. The first response is, don't you ever call me again. That's great. I love that. I am not a gray person. I love yes and no, right? Chuck used to say, my favorite answer is yes, and my second favorite answer is no, right? I love that. If they tell me don't ever call them again, great. I know exactly where I stand and I can move on to the next person. The other thing that you're likely to hear is, if they don't say don't ever call me again, is they're going to say something like, wow, you are really persistent and I thank you for hanging in there with me. I'm just so sorry I haven't gotten back to you. Really, to be honest with you, those are the only 2 responses. It is those 2 responses. It's either don't ever call me again or thank you for being so persistent. Okay. Let's practice. Okay, so his number 2 is practice key scripts for objection handlers. I'm just going to write scripts. So that's a great point, because listen, if you get a lead and you get an internet lead or you get any type of lead, you better be really sharp on your objection handlers, because you're only going to have one shot at this, right? Most of the time, they're only going to give you a little time on the phone, and you got to be ready. You got to be ready with what you're going to say. And again, the first time you get anybody on the phone, you only have one goal: get the appointment. That's it. Get the appointment, and try to get the appointment within 24 to 48 hours. Do not try to book the appointment out later than 48 hours, because it's highly unlikely that you're going to get them back. You got to get them in 24 to 48 hours. And the great thing that COVID gave us was the ability to do listing presentations on Zoom. And so all of your listing presentations, all of your buyer presentations, they all have to be digital and they all have to be ready to be shared on Zoom. And believe it or not, what we're seeing is that the consumer actually prefers Zoom rather than meet you in person. It's less of an obligation for them. They get to schedule this much easier on their time, right? And if they don't like you, they can be on and off the Zoom in 15 minutes. And you didn't have to drive out anywhere, right? So make sure all of the presentations are digital and you can do them effectively on Zoom. His number 3, utilize social media more. Okay, so he was going to do more social media to help him. And that was going to look like him doing videos at houses, him doing videos at open houses, him really promoting open houses, things of that nature. His number 4 was, we were using a lead platform called Commissions Inc. And his number 4 was utilize filters on Commissions Inc. That wouldn't apply to you, but you can fill in your own number 4 under internet lead generation. And then his 5th one was really interesting. It's something that we all need to do. He says, number 5, block time in my week specifically for internet lead calling. And it really doesn't matter if it's just internet lead calling or any type of lead calling. You got to block time. I said to Chris, if you don't get in the morning and do it right out of the gate, I don't care if you do it for 30 minutes, you do it for 3 hours, you don't do it in the morning, ain't gonna happen. Because the day just overwhelms you. It takes over. I had to do 20 hours of continuing education for Hawaii, and I had just had to complete 10 hours of continuing education for Colorado. And I had to have it done by the end of this week. So I purposely started doing the classes after 5 o'clock here at the office. I was here till like 7, 8, or 9 o'clock. And the reason why I did that is because I knew after 5 o'clock, my phone and my email were going to really settle down and no one was going to bother me or try to get a hold of me. And I knew I couldn't do it at home because I knew the kids and Jen and the dog and everyone else would be bothering me. So I sat here and I did it. The point I'm trying to make is find a quiet place. Find a place that you're not going to be interrupted every 5 seconds. Find a time that you can literally do the lead gen. And if you do the work, it will actually happen. Now, you've heard me say, and some of you, that one of the plans I gave my team in Colorado that was the simplest lead gen plan ever was this. Each day, do 5 seller contacts. Call 5 potential sellers, okay? Each day, do 5 potential buyer contacts. Call 5 buyers. Each day, do 5 posts. This wouldn't work for me, but it'll work for you. Do 5 posts, not posts, but 5 interactions on social media. What I mean by that interactions is we have a tendency to go in and just post about our lives. That's not interacting on social media. Interacting on social media is looking at 5 other people's posts and responding and engaging them in conversation. That's how social media is supposed to be done. So you're going to react to at least 5 or get into conversation on 5 social media. Over here, I want you to do 5 note cards. I want you to get some stationery, spend some money, have the stationery say Baron Block on it with a big B in the middle, and order it online from Vistaprint, get it into your, and take, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, and write 5 handwritten cards to people that are in your sphere of influence. And you'll be surprised at how many people will be so thankful and grateful that you took the time to write a note card. I'm telling you, it is a difference maker. Okay? And then the last number 5 is right here. I want you to call 5 Keller Williams agents. Now, this doesn't happen at any other company, right? Because the other companies are not the world's largest real estate company. Like, you couldn't call 5 Keller Williams agents a day and get through the company. You couldn't do it, right? When we talk about the fact that there's 800 Keller Williams agents in Hawaii alone, that should be your first place to start. You should take the rosters of the Keller Williams agents' offices and just start going down them. And you say, well, where do I get that, Dan? And you say, easy, you go to command. You go into the referrals applet. When it tells you to punch in a location, start with our Kahului office, right? Put in Kahului, Maui. All of the agents populate on the right-hand side. Friend them. And when you friend them, send them a note, right? Billy could friend the first one, say, hey, I just wanted to reach out to you. I'm Billy Mullins. I just signed on with Keller Williams in the Kona office. I am so excited to be on the island, and I am so excited about the possibility of doing business with you. I don't know if you would consider sending me any business that you might have in Kona, but I can tell you I would be happy to send some business your way in Maui. Would you like to just at some point catch up over the phone and send that message with a friend request? I did that when I got here. You can't believe how many agents I spoke to in Keller Williams the first few months I was here. Every day I had a phone call with a different KW agent. Okay. Now, many of you know that I have a listing in Monolani at 18 million. That listing came from the exercise I just told you about. I reached out to all of the Keller Williams agents in the Kahului office. Tyler Coons got my friend request through command. He called me because I asked him if he'd like to catch up and talk over the phone. And he told me about a client that he had on the Big Island that was interested in selling their home. And here we are today. Okay. Keller Williams will fill your pipeline with deals if you work the Keller Williams network. You got to work the network. It's got to be part of your lead gen. Okay? How are we doing on time?
155.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the 135? And what I like about the 135 is that it starts to break down a really legitimate plan of what you're going to do each time. Like, what are you going to do to get 12 listings sold? What are you going to do to get 9 buyers closed? And the 135 helps you do that. You guys have any questions online?
Yeah, I have a question.
Fire away.
Oh God, my big face on the screen. So someone that's new, right? Obviously lead generation is the primary focus. And
Yep.
That was really valuable and helpful. So thank you for that, just going over what you did. But in terms of not like, there's a lot of things, like I love social media. So I think that's a great one. But then in terms of choosing another avenue, like there's different options. How would you guide to choose which one you're going to do? Because you might use one and then throw it out because it's not working for you. Like, what would you say about that?
Yeah, the short answer is that you got to test and retest. I'll give you an example. I don't know anybody here. I've only been here a year and a half. So what I know to do to drum up business is I don't have a sphere of influence on the island. I don't have a book of business. So the only thing that I can do is mail. So I was very successful at direct mail back in Colorado. It made me a lot of money. And I have a simple method of I mail and I call, I mail and I call, I mail and I call. And that method works really well. And as you could ask Chris, it's starting to work really well here. But you have to stick with it. I'll give you an example. So the first mailing I did to 3,000 homes up and down the coast of Hawaii, on this west side, I tried to figure out what would I send them. And I thought, everybody sends them a postcard, everybody sends them market statistics, everybody sends them whatever. Now remember, these mailings up and down the coast, they're not going to the property. They're going to their mailing address over on the mainland, right? And so what would I send somebody who owns a second home here in Maryland? Am I going to send them a little market statistic postcard? I said, no, I'm going to send them something different. I'm going to be different. I am going to write them a letter. And it's going to be on Keller Williams Big Island letterhead. And I'm going to announce that Keller Williams is now here on the Big Island. And the same great Keller Williams that they deal with on the mainland, they can deal with here. I'm going to introduce myself and my team and my value proposition. And I'm going to have that envelope. I'm going to have that letter stuffed in an envelope. And I'm going to have that envelope handwritten and sent out. So I found a company in Nevada that did all of this for me. And we sent out 3,000 of those. You know how many leads we got? None. Zilch. Okay. So I huddle up with Chris and I say, okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where smart people start to earn their money, right? So we have to ask ourselves these questions. Did we not mail to the right people? I don't think so. I think we're mailing to the right group. Did we not have the right message? Or did we not have the right medium, the way we presented it? So I said to him, let's shift gears. Let's come up with the same message, because I think our message is good. And let's put it on a 6x11 postcard with an amazing 4-color photograph of the Big Island. And so we get this amazing photograph that we buy from iStock Photo by P.O. Valley. And we almost put the same identical message on the back. And we mail it all the way out to the 3,000 people again. This time, we get one deal. And we're actually working on our second. Right? So now I say to him, hey, we're close. We've got this dialed in to maybe 85 or 90%. We almost have this dialed in. What is the one thing we're missing? Because as Chris is calling the people that received the 6x11 postcard. He's calling them. You know what they're telling him? They're saying, yeah, we got your postcard. Man, we love that picture that you have on the front of that postcard, YPO Valley. They actually sent that to him. So I know that they got it and I know that they looked at it. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've caught them now. I know that the 6x11 postcard is not going in the trash. I know that they're looking at it, right? So what do we got to tweak, right? We've got the medium, we've got the format, we've got the right list. Now I think we got to tweak the message. And so I said, Chris, you know what we're not doing? We're not enticing them enough to call us. Our call to action is not strong enough. So we got to come up with something really good here. So I'm not going to tell you what we came up with yet, because I don't know how it's going to work. But we have an incredible offer and an incredible call to action on the card. And it's getting mailed out tomorrow, right? And what I said to him is, okay, we did 2 deals from the middle card. We got to pull 5 deals, at least 5 deals from this latest card. And you got to call them and you got to follow up. And that's how you start to build a business when you come here and you don't know anyone. Now, that's not the case for you, Baron, because you've got a database chock full of timeshare people who bought on this island. Now, your challenge is to figure out how you're going to get them to make the jump from timeshare to residential ownership.
Right.
Okay?
Yep, got it.
Good.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Not right now. We'll have another more detailed conversation about that later. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anybody else? Other questions?
Yeah.
Billy.
Where do you get the phone numbers?
Okay, so that's a great question. I was waiting for somebody to ask, hey, Dan, you're mailing to 3,000 people. How are you getting their phone number in, Baltimore, Maryland? Answer, what you do is when the title company gives you the list of all of the addresses, all of the people that own homes here. Remember, they give you a spreadsheet that can choke a horse. It's the person's first name, it's their last name, it's their property address, and then the key column, their mailing address, right? You want to know their mailing address. And so I take that sheet and I ship it over to a company called LandVoice. And LandVoice takes that sheet and it dumps it into its system, and that system goes out and finds the phone numbers for these people. Okay? And then Chris and I buy a subscription to LandVoice, and we log into our LandVoice portal, and we're looking up everyone's phone number who owns a house in Kukio and Hualalai and Kohanaiki, and we're calling them. Now remember, this is a numbers game, right? You don't have to use LandVoice, you can use Retest. You don't have to use Retest, you can use Vulcan 7. There's a lot of different programs out there that get the phone numbers for you. But here's the key. What Chris and I had to go through, which now benefits all of you, is we had to go through a lot of pain. And what I mean by that is all of these companies that do this are not all created equal, and some are really good and some are suck and some are just so-so. But one of the testings that we had to go through, we actually did an account with all three companies to see which company could provide us the most phone numbers. But if you take a subdivision like Hali'i Kai, and there's 180, and you give them to Retest, and you say, upload these and get me the phone numbers for all 180, they're going to get you phone numbers for about 80 of the 180. And out of the 80, 50 are going to be on the do not call list. So now you have a pool of 30 to call from. Now, that was the case with Retest. Was it a little better with Vulcan 7? Yeah, it was a little bit better with Vulcan 7, but it wasn't great. I had to terminate that contract. Then we get on to LandVoice. Well, we found that LandVoice was the best of the three. They got me the most amount of phone numbers, but still there was a fair amount that were on the do not call list. But listen, I said out of 180, let's say I think we ended up with what, 60 or 70 phone numbers to call? Yeah, about 70 phone numbers to call. I said, listen, if we actually got any percentage, small percentage of the 70 phone numbers and they listed with us, I mean, if we got 10 deals out of that, that's great, right? Okay. Other questions? Okay. All right, now let's move on to the one thing 411 goal worksheet. Okay, so again, the 411 and the 135, the combination of these are for you to fill out and post somewhere near your desk or your computer. And the reason for that is you got to look at these every day. You have to remind yourself every day about what you have to do. Remember, time on task? Time on task yields results. You have to look at what you're doing. Now, you'll notice that each one of these things here on the 411 action plan is that you've got an annual goal, a monthly goal, and a weekly goal. And the whole purpose is to try to break it down into bite-sized chunks, right? Because in other words, if you hit your 5 weekly goals, then clearly you would have hit, and you did that for 4 weeks, then you would have hit your monthly goal, right? And if you hit your monthly goal every month, then you're certainly going to hit your professional goal for the year. So you got to fill these out and figure out what they are to you. Now, the great thing that I love about the 411 is it also gives you a personal goal. And I don't think it's healthy for anyone to sit and spend time doing just professional goals. Like, you got to do some personal goals. Shiaki and I have this conversation all the time. You know, listen, a lot of you know my story. You know that I was running a mega office in Denver of 600 agents. I was running an office in San Diego of 150 agents, and I had my team in Denver that was doing 120 transactions a year. There was 8 team members, and that schedule was going to kill me. I mean, literally, from age 49 to 51, I spent almost all of my time at a doctor's appointment. I was perpetually at a doctor's appointment because something was wrong. And all of my doctors said to me the same thing. Guy, you got to change your life. You got way too much stress. Your schedule is horrendous. You're up at 5 a.m. You're going to bed at 1 a.m. You're on a plane all over the country. You've got to change your life. One of the reasons why I sold everything I own and moved to Hawaii, right? So you've got to have some personal goals. For those of you who have ever called my Denver phone number, you know I have a voicemail on there that says, I don't work on Sundays, right? Because listen, real estate agents can, doesn't mean they should, but they can work 24/7. We really can. We can work 24/7, 365. And if we let our clients know that, they will work us 24/7, 365. And so you got to figure out what your boundaries are going to be. And that would be a good way to put down here on some of your personal goals. Jen and I had to make a boundary. She's like, listen, there's 2 things I ask when you come home. I don't want your phone on when it's dinner time. I want you to be present. I want you to sit and talk with me. I want you to talk with the kids. You need to shut your phone off. And I don't want you taking any phone calls after 9 p.m. That's what she asked. And I said, okay. So we set that boundary. I needed to take one day off. And so I picked Sunday. Here's the cool thing. When I first did this, and I've had that message on my phone for probably 6 years now. But when I first did this, people said to me, are you crazy? You're a real estate agent. You're not going to work on a Sunday. You're going to lose your shirt. You're going to lose all of your business. Actually, what happened was the opposite was true. My business doubled. And I knew I was on the right track when I got this phone call. I had just put the message on my phone that I don't work on Sundays. And that week, I got a call from a builder. And the builder called me on a Saturday morning, and this is what he said. He said, hey, Dan, when you were in here yesterday, we forgot to have you sign the form for one of your buyers. And I know you don't work on Sundays. This is this quote. I know you don't work on Sundays. So is there any chance you could swing by today, Saturday, to sign this form for your buyer? And I thought, voila. I've only been at this 1 week and I've already trained them to know that I don't work on Sundays. And the short answer is you can train your clients to know that you don't work on a certain day. Now, here's where this goes terribly wrong and off course. You tell everyone you don't work on Sundays, and then you do. If you do, you've just shot all of that right out the window. Right? So don't, right? Don't. And so figure out what are some of the personal goals. Hey, I want to get in better shape. Hey, I want to work on my, you could have a spiritual goal. Hey, I want to do a Bible study. I want to join a small group. There could be a lot of things that could be personal goals. I want to learn how to surf. I want to do better. You know what I want to do? If anyone can help me with this, I want to do that new hydrofoil thing that I see on TV, where they've got the hydrofoil and the kite. Yeah, well, I don't know about the kite, but I kind of like the windsurf part on the hydrofoil where you got the staff. I think I could handle that, but I definitely want to do the hydrofoil thing. And I thought about putting an ad out to see if anyone would teach me, right? But that is a personal goal of mine here in 2021. I want to learn how to do the hydrofoil. But you got to build in some of these things because, listen, life is not supposed to be torture. You're not just supposed to work all the time and then you die. Have some fun, right? I mean, you guys are working hard. You're making some good money. Go spend some time to enjoy it, right? Anybody have any questions on the 411?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah,
Should I work from the bottom or from the top?
well, I'll leave it up to you. I think it works better if you work from the top because you gotta think about the goals.
A big goal.
Correct. Now, here's one of the things that we all fall into that we all make mistakes on, okay? And this is what Gary Keller told me when I met Gary Keller for the very first time in Austin. He said, you think too small. And he tells everybody that. You think too small. Stop thinking small. Start thinking big. And so to Shiaki's point, when we're talking about the annual goal, the big goal, the one thing, think big, right? And work towards something that's big. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You didn't get there? Okay, who cares? What if you got 75% there? That's great. That's great. That's better than everybody else. I can tell you that. So think big. When I came aboard to Keller Williams from Sotheby's, Pam and Tony recruited me, and they gave me a white piece of paper like this. And I told a lot of you this story already, but at the top of the paper, they said, Dan, right up here, what will you do with your profit share check? You know, everybody knows what profit share is in the company. What will you do with your profit share check? So I'm sitting there with my white paper, and I think I wrote, oh, I'll take a vacation. Pam and Tony looked at that, they laughed. They grabbed their marker and they went, no, not that. You're not thinking big enough. And I thought, well, maybe I'll use some of the money to help with the kids' college education, right? College ed. Pam and Tony go, nope, cross that out. You're not thinking big enough. They said, think big. And so I scratched my head, thinking. So remember, this is 2012, right? This is 2012. So when I write on the top of my paper, what am I going to do with my profit share? I write, I will buy a house in Hawaii with my profit share. 2017, I bought a house in Hawaii. Am I using my profit share? You bet, because the profit share I get each month pays the mortgage. So I live here for free. Now, was I Nostradamus? Did I have some type of premonition? No, I thought big. I thought big because you've heard Lisa say it over and over again. You'll hear me say it. What you focus in on expands. What you focus in on expands. And I was committed to bringing people to Keller Williams. And I knew that if I did so, my profit share would skyrocket. And it would skyrocket to the point where I could buy a house here with it. So part of your goal setting is, under the professional goal, Shiaki, like, what are you guys going to do this year to build wealth? That probably should be one of your goals. What are you going to do to build wealth? Are you going to look at maybe purchasing an investment property that you can rent out? Are you thinking about maybe doing a fix and flip? Are you thinking that if you're really smart and savvy, you're thinking that the market is going to tank with the new administration, so you're going to short the market come January 1st because you're a stock guru? What ways are you going to build wealth? What are your opportunities to build wealth? And that should be part of your plan. Questions?
I have something to
Everybody knows
add
what they're
there.
gonna- What's that, Sam?
I just have something to add, kind of a supplement from, the database with other KW agents. The calling KW agents, don't underestimate that. The appointments that I've went on from KW referrals have been by far the easiest conversions. The least amount of resistance is from another agent through KW wherever they are in the world. That's what I've noticed. So they're definitely undervalued.
Chris, every buyer that you and I have on a drip campaign that's getting properties came from where?
Phone calls.
KW referrals.
Okay, yeah.
KW referrals. Almost everyone that we've got. Yeah. Other questions? Now, one of the classes that I taught before in the past, and I'm happy to teach again, if you guys want it, you gotta email me and say, Dan, please get this on the calendar, was a class that I did called 101 lead generation ideas. And I literally give you 101 lead generation ideas. We go down all of them. And I basically say, don't try to do all of these, right? I'll give you a system, right? It's one thing to have 101 ideas. It's another to have a system that gets you results. And so I'll give you a system with 101 ideas. And the system basically will tell you to pick 5 buckets of the 101. And you should, again, this is mainland, this is not Hawaii. They say that you should be able to pull at least 5 deals out of each bucket for a total of 25 deals for the year. Again, once you decide. So again, I gave you an example earlier. What was one of my buckets? It was Mike and Malia's sporting events. That was one of my buckets that I knew I could pull 5 deals a year out of, right? What was another one of my buckets? My wife, Jennifer. She loved going garage sailing. This was her thing. Other people's trash was her treasure. And she loved going garage sailing. And she took a stack of cards of my business cards every time she went. Because listen, what are people doing when they're garage sailing? They're either moving or they're just decluttering. But more often than not, they're moving. And so my wife would go there, she'd strike up a conversation, she would hand out my card. Now, my wife is a very shrewd businesswoman, okay? So she told me up front that for every lead she got me, what her commission structure was going to be, right? So she told me if she gave me anything that was $500,000 and under, I owed her $500. Anything $500,000 and up, I owed her $1,000. So we made that deal. I said, okay, honey, you go out and you hand out as many of my cards as you can. That was a bucket for me, right? Church was a bucket for me, okay? A lot of people say, no, I don't want to go pull business out of church. I feel very uncomfortable. Listen, I'm not standing outside of church with a sandwich board that says, talk to me, I'm a realtor, right? I'm at church just having normal conversations with people. And again, everybody knows what I do. And Chris and I were involved in it. I was paddleboarding 2 weeks ago with my senior pastor. He said, Dan, I got an email in from somebody inside the church. They wanted to know if I knew somebody who could help them. They're from Oregon. She's from
Sacramento.
Sacramento. Long story short, pastor gives the lady in Sacramento my name. She calls me. Chris takes her out. She flies in town. Chris takes her out all last weekend to look. So church is a bucket for me. Figure out what your buckets are going to be. Pick 5 of them and pull 5 deals. The gym is a bucket for me. Okay. Every morning I would be I'm here, but every morning I would be at a gym called Lifetime Fitness in Denver. It was 350,000 square feet. It was the largest fitness facility in the country. And I would see the same people there every day at 6:30 a.m. Morning Bill, morning Dan, morning Bill, morning Dan, every day. And they always knew what I did. And I would pull 5 deals a year out of the gym. Now I've joined a new gym and I'm going to try to pull 5 deals out of this gym. Figure out what those buckets are. And if you guys want me to go through the 101 lead gen ideas, I'll do it. And we'll talk about how you can leverage that. But it goes back to the first part of the conversation that we had, which is do something you're going to like, right? I know Shiaki hates cold calling. So the answer is don't cold call. Don't do it. You're going to be horrible at it, right? And this one guy who came on my team, Aaron, he said, "Oh, you're telling us to do all of these things. You're probably not even doing them yourself." I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Like door knocking." I said, "You want a door knock?" He said, "Yeah, I want a door knock and I want to see you go with me." I said, "Done, deal. I'll never ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself." So there we were, Saturday morning, July 21st. You know why I know the date? Because it was 101 degrees that day in Denver. And I'm door knocking a neighborhood in Castle Pines Village with Aaron Moore. And we are just door knocking and door knocking and door knocking. And we got 2 deals out of it. And at the end of the day, I was drenched in sweat. And he said to me, "Okay, I'll never doubt you again." He said, "You lived up to what you said you were going to do." And we got him 2 deals, right? And then again, I gave him a system on the door knocking. It's one thing to just go door knock, but you need a system behind it. So what we did, and I told this to Chris, is I open up my phone, my iPhone, I open up notes, and I hit the voice, the dictation. And I stand in front of the house and I go, 123 Parker Street, yellow house, blue shutters. And then I walk up to the door, I knock on it. Conversation goes only one of 2 ways. Leave, don't ever knock on my door again. Or, hey, thanks for stopping by, and we have a conversation about buying and selling. But when I was done, I would walk back down the driveway, I would open up that same note, and I'd say, "Guy's name is Bill, wife is Carol, they're thinking about selling, put a task for you to contact in 6 weeks." And then I would know, because like if you went and door knocked 100 houses, how would you remember everything that you door knocked and who to call and who to follow up on it? And I kept that note in my phone. And then I went back and I put my tasks together. But that's a system, right? You do an open house. You don't throw the signs out and put the balloon out and say, "Lord, I pray somebody comes." No, you have a system. There is a system behind getting a lot of people to come to an open house. And the success of an open house isn't the day of. The success of the open house is the 3 days before the open house, where you spend all the time, the work, and the effort to get people there. Okay? Questions?
Will you go door knocking with me? No.
Yeah, we find the right neighborhood, I'll do it. I like door knocking. It doesn't really bother me. It's a challenge to see if I can get people to talk to me. That's the other thing. We'd make it fun. We'd make it a game. Like, all right, you're going to do this side of the street. I'm going to do this side of the street. And whoever gets more people to talk to them wins. And then we'd have some type of prize. Like for me, you can easily bribe me with Dairy Queen because I love Dairy Queen, right? Okay. Anything else? Okay, so here's the key, which is everything that you got taught today, you got to fill out for yourself. And if you're an established agent, you can look at your past 2 years and you can have an idea of how many deals, how many units, what the average price point is going to be, what the average commission is going to be, and how many deals and transactions you're going to have to do in order to take home that net income. And there will be no guesswork here. You'll know when you're done with the exercise. And then you're going to really have to put your thinking cap on, because the first exercise is just numbers. The second exercise is really boiling down to, okay, what is it I'm going to do, right? How am I going to pull this off? What will I adhere to? And then the last one, the 411, is, hey, all right, I got to hold myself accountable or have someone hold me accountable. That's another thing. I highly recommend you guys team up with accountability partners. I really do. I really like that. And so let's just say it's Baron and Sam. I'm not volunteering you, Sam or Baron, but let's just say you two are accountability partners. And the key here for this accountability thing to work is that Sam actually has to call Baron and say, hey, how'd you do this week? Did you get your 50 phone calls in? And Baron goes, no, I didn't get the 50 phone calls in. And then Sam says, well, how come? And then Baron makes up some lame excuse, right? I'm just kidding you, Baron. But then the last part of the conversation that Sam says to Baron is, okay, what are you going to do differently this week to make sure you get the 50 in? So Shiaki, if you know that I'm gonna ask you on Monday if you hit all of your goals, you're either gonna do one of two things. You're either gonna make sure you hit those goals, or you're not gonna come into the office on Monday because you don't wanna see me, right? One of the two, right? So think about accountability partners. They work, they help, they definitely do, to make sure that you're meeting those. Okay? I think that's it, everybody, unless you have any other questions.
Is this important for back of the?
The 411? No, I don't think so. There's, no, it's fine. All right. Now remember, we're gonna hold this exact same class again next week. So if you see one of your fellow brethren in real estate, whether they're with Keller Williams or not, tell them to sign up for next week's class, right? Because that's the last time I'm gonna be offering it. We do typically do business planning in November because nobody wants to do business planning in December, right? It's not fun when all the festivities and things are going on. And you want to get your program, you want to get your business plan in place before the start of the new year. All right?
Great.
Cool.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.